Do you want to see what your mix sounds like in a car? Well, I've got the plugin for you. Listening to your mix in a car is basically one of the ways you could test your mix for translation. And translation in audio is basically, does your mix sound the same on different speakers? Or better said, does your mix feel the same? Because it will sound different on different speakers, because that's how it is. Now, testing in a car isn't the only way to test your mix for translation. You could also listen to it on different speakers in your studio. Aventone mix cubes and Yamaha NS10s are pretty popular to do this. Another way to make your mix translation proof is by mixing on super accurate speakers, because what I've noticed is that the more precise your speakers are, the better the translation is. And actually the Quasar speaker setup that I have installed in my wall is basically made from the ground up for translation. More about my speakers over here in this video. And that's also the reason why you do not see other speakers in my studio like Aventones or NS10s or whatever for a translation check, because in my setup it's more confusing to use than it actually helps me. And I know that sounds a bit weird. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be saying this, I wouldn't believe you. But I can understand that not everybody wants to completely rebuild their studio for a set of new speakers. So that's why Rocket Powered Sound came with a plugin called Car Test. See what your mix sounds like inside a car. It's a free download, it's compatible with almost everything, and it's a pretty simple thing. Push one button and simulate car speakers. So it's a free plugin, which is really cool because it cannot be snake oil because it's free. So it's completely free. There's not a lot of information on the website, and I think it's also just like power on and power off, and that's everything that it does, like turn on the car or turn off the car. So let's try it out. But before I'm going to try it out, I first want to say that Shane from Rocket Powered Sound did send me an invite to review this plugin. He didn't give me early access, and well, the plugin is free, so I also didn't have to send me a license. He's also not paying me or whatever. Now, if you appreciate that, make sure to support me by, for instance, using my affiliate links over here or by becoming a channel member down below. So this is the plugin. We can turn it on and off, and we cannot crash it into the wall. We've got a level setting over here, which is always appreciated. And yeah, let's try it out. Okay. I know that you're trying to fix me, but I don't want to be like you. If you want to take it back to the 50s, maybe oh, that's interesting. For you. You're dying not to work until you die, you know that's true. Have you thought it through? 'Cause you love to tell me what to do. Say no, I'm not like you, I don't think that you get it. Go and get out, I'll make you. So listen to the... It's not like just a filter over it. It's more because there's something happening in my stereo image, stereo field, which is logical, of course. If you're in a car, you're never really in the center. By the way, the animation is kind of funny, but it like not really. Just a power button with Car Test would be enough for me, but. Let's not talk about it too much in this video. Anyway, I've tried to replicate this effect with a filter. It looks like this. I've just put FabFilter on the learn feature, like learn the same curve, because I wanted to figure out what was actually happening here. Let's compare these two. So I mean, it is a filter, but the stereo field is just different, and I'm not sure what is happening here. But they haven't packaged just a fancy filter in a plugin. What they are actually doing is they're using an impulse response. And I've actually tried to recreate this impulse response in reverb from Reaper. And it looks like this. If we now switch between the two. We're getting the exact same effect. So what they're doing in Car Test is not just a filter, it's It's more or less a little bit of a roomy reverb kind of thing that shifts our stereo field a little bit as well. Now, what I could do is, of course, say like, hey, this is a very cheap plugin. Here's the impulse response and go ahead. But first of all, I'm not sure if that's allowed from a copyright perspective if I would do that. And second of all, it's free. So now I will of course link to Car Test in the description down below, but before I'm going to end this video, I have one more thing to think about when it comes to this subject. Because we can of course recreate the sound of a car using an impulse response or using a filter or some other sophisticated AI stuff, whatever. We can do that. However, can we also emulate our brain? Because I think that our brain is in a different mode when we are sitting in a car, most of all when we're driving. I think one of the things that is happening when listening in a car is that our brain switches from active listening to passive listening. And because of that, you are noticing different things than when you are actively listening. And a good example is that sometimes when I'm bouncing masters or stuff, I'm bouncing them real time through analog gear and I just press record. And what I normally do is then, read email, or I'll just scroll social media. It's basically what I do. It's just an excuse for using my phone. I always say that I'm reading email, but it's basically just social media. But I'm scrolling on my phone, doom scrolling. And all of a sudden I notice something that I didn't notice before. It's some kind of subconscious thing. And that is of course something that is more difficult to emulate than a plugin. Because switching from active to passive listening is something that you have to do yourself. You cannot get a plugin for that. So I think that testing in a car, yes, there's of course like a filtered version of your music and it helps you. But I think there's also a psychological thing with that. And that's the last thing that I wanted to say about this subject. Thanks a lot for watching. If you want to become a channel member and have early access to videos and also access to some exclusive content, you can join on YouTube underneath this video and on Patreon over here. Both memberships have the exact same thing in it, so just use the platform you like. Now, if you like my videos and want to see more, I'll link one of my videos over here. And of course, I want to thank you all for watching. Keep pushing and bye-bye.